Hello, everyone. So, Kyrsten Sinema recently released an op-ed basically defending her points and her ideology as it pertains to keeping the filibuster. If you're not aware, there's been this huge talk of getting rid of the filibuster or at the very least reforming it. More progressive Democrats have been trying to get this goal accomplished so that they can enact a progressive agenda. Biden's agenda that was supposed to be more progressive. We have been seeing inklings of it. Nothing much to be said about that yet. He hasn't delivered on most of his promises that he made. Some he's even flat out abandoned. But that's a different video. This is about Kyrsten Sinema here. I want to read to you a couple of quotes that she had to say, and of course we'll discuss it. So this is from her. Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona on Monday defended the filibuster as the Senate prepares to take a procedural vote on sweeping voting rights bill, saying the rule compels moderation and helps shield the country from policy swings or reversals driven by changing party control. So check this out. She says, and I quote, "Instability, partisanship, and tribalism continue to infect our politics," Sinema wrote in an op-ed published by the Washington Post. "The solution, however, is not to continue weakening our democracy's guardrails. If we eliminate the Senate's 60-vote threshold, we will lose much more than we gain." How? How? They always say these things, but they never offer explanations for them. How will we lose more than we gain? If we get rid of the filibuster, we can pass the PRO Act. Or they'd still go against it. Sinema and Manchin will, of course, because they're incredibly corrupt. We'll get into that in a second. And there's also other ones like them that, maybe aren't as vocal, but it's more than just them two. But anyway, if we get rid of the filibuster, we can pass the For the People Act. We can pass progressive legislation. That's not losing. Who's that losing to? It's not losing for the people to get a $15 minimum wage. I'm very confused. And let's say that, just for all intents and purposes, the Senate, the Democrats had like a supermajority in the Senate. And let's just say they had 60 Democrats in the Senate. Let's just say that that's what they had. She would then find another excuse as to why she can't either A, get rid of the filibuster, or B, pass more progressive legislation. They just keep going with it. They find different excuses. So don't let this fool you at all. Okay. She goes on to say, "To those who want to eliminate the legislative filibuster to pass the For the People Act, voting rights legislation I supported and have co-sponsored, I ask, would it be good for our country if we did? Yes. Only to see that legislation rescinded a few years from now and replaced by a nationwide voter ID law or restrictions on voting by mail in federal elections over the objections of the minority," Sinema wrote in the Washington Post. Okay, first of all, states are already passing restrictive voting laws, if you aren't aware of that. Secondly, do you know nothing? Okay, what happened? If you don't know, guys, I want you to look up what happened during the Reagan years when his administration tried to do something to Social Security. What do you think would happen if any administration or politician tried to get rid of something like Medicare or Medicaid or any popular government program? They'd be ran out of town, man. They're not going to get rid of this stuff. They're not going to be able to get rid of this stuff. And the party that implemented it will stay in power if they keep delivering on such promises. That's how these things work. That's how these things work. FDR got elected, I think it was 3 or 4 times. Okay, he was president for 4 terms until he died, right? How? How was that so? He kept delivering on economical issues that were incredibly popular. The first established minimum wage, the jobs program, unemployment insurance. I mean, the things that he did was unprecedented. And the people awarded him for doing that. And they'll do the same thing to whichever party gives them a higher minimum wage, for example, or passes Medicare for all, for example. Her way of thinking is so flawed, it's ridiculous. She goes on to say, Sinema noted that when Republicans control the Senate. Democrats used the filibuster to block police reform and a COVID-19 relief bill, which forced GOP senators back to the negotiating table. Bipartisan policy, she said, stand the test of time and bolster Americans' confidence in government. My support for retaining the 60-vote threshold is not based on the importance of any particular policy. Well, there you go. She's not based on policy. It is based on what's best for our democracy. And what the fuck does that mean? Nobody knows. Hazy statements from a very corrupt politician. The filibuster compels moderation and helps protect the country from wild swings between opposing policy poles. So no matter what I just read to you, no matter what she says in the past, in the future, okay, it all comes down to this last statement. The filibuster compels moderation and helps protect our country from wild swings between opposing policy poles. So she just wants to be moderate. She doesn't want progressive legislation. She doesn't want a higher minimum wage. She doesn't want you or your family to have the health care that you need, that you can't afford because our healthcare system is incredibly corrupt. She doesn't want you to be able to afford your insulin. She likes things the way they are, moderate, low corporate tax rates, low tax rates on the rich, okay, regressive taxes for the people. That's what she likes. That's what she favors. This is the same woman that went to, it was like some meeting for the NRA, not the gun people, but the National Restaurant Association, to basically be with lobbyists and talk about how they're screwing you out of a $15 minimum wage and how you're not going to get it. That's essentially what it was. I mean, in a nutshell, put very blatantly. But I mean, her reasonings for this are absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. She says that, getting rid of the 60-vote threshold would somehow upend democracy. First of all, you can still pass things with the majority through something called budget reconciliation. Are you not aware that that exists? I mean, there's so many holes in her arguments here, it makes no sense. But at the very least, we know it's not about policy with this woman. I mean, she says it right here. It's in black and white. It's not about policy. It's not about policy. It's all it's all ideology. And her ideology makes no sense. It's as if these people were created in the lab somewhere. I have no idea where they get their way of thinking from. It's extremely asinine, and it's not what the people want. She says that negotiating bipartisan consensus, bipartisan policies, it bolsters Americans' confidence in government. I ask you, the viewer, if you were presented with a bill and it said that, okay, if we pass this bill, everybody will have health care. We're going to pass Medicare for all. We're going to give everybody in the country health care. But it's a partisan bill. Only the Democrats are going to vote for it. But it's going to pass, but only the Democrats. Are you, a regular American, going to look at that and go, I get free health care, but only one party wants it for me? You're going to have to pass on that, man. You got to get at least 5 Republicans. Nobody in their right mind is going to do that. That person doesn't exist. They just don't exist. So everything she says is completely stupid and makes absolutely no sense. But this is what we're dealing with, people.